ignore it. It's not a big deal.
I wouldn't schedule any meetings. I would have a good reason not to schedule. Okay?
Good evening. I'd like to call this October 12th, 2022 meeting of the City of Manassas Park Planning Commission to order. The time is 7 p.m. My name is Lester Finkel. Sitting this evening, Martha Collier, John Evans, and Alana Memsick.
Really looking at your downtown, to identify connections, speak about multimodal opportunities.
That's scary as hell.
Yeah, it's scary.
Add into the transportation
But I call
chapter.
pound 77 and then somebody from
Next, we have
Yeah.
and then they helped me and they were really nice.
2019 boundary line adjustment.
Isn't pound
We
77
did
the,
have some
the state
properties
police?
come into the city
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
with that,
okay.
Yeah, I called my
we
dad
had
and he was like,
to
call
incorporate them
pound
into our
77.
future
I was
land
like,
use
okay.
plan.
Sure.
Most of them were
Did you get it
city-owned
fixed?
properties, but there was, I believe, one
Oh.
property
Yeah,
that
yeah, give me a few
is
minutes.
owned, or is not owned by the city, it's a private property, and so that all had to be included into this comprehensive plan amendment. And then lastly, for our transportation initiative, we did designate the city center redevelopment district as an urban development area that helps us with transportation initiatives that some of them I'll be going through this evening. So I tried to summarize everything that and distill what was every line item in your packet into a few bullets. So what things that we do need to be included in the plan is current data. If you've looked at our plan, it needs updating, and certainly for population, housing, economic indicators. Public facilities, I think we're pretty current on, but we certainly do not have current data on population and housing, especially in the plan. We need that base factor to figure out where we're going to go in the future. Hence the next bullet, that is we need those projections to inform the plan and inform other public facilities and needs for the community. As you'll see, I included broadband because now we are required to at least speak to that in the comprehensive plan. I guess they're deeming it a public facility.
That's okay. I'll just call you.
And a needed public infrastructure, so we will have to opine on that in the plan language. Multimodal transportation, while our transportation chapter has touched on that, there certainly could be a lot more information and decisions along with maps and policies. So that is something that runs through the theme of what is needed in the transportation, in the comprehensive plan. And while we did speak about it in the transportation plan, there certainly can be additional information. Natural resources is also one. Our environmental chapter does speak to that. It could need a bit of updating. We probably need to focus more on stormwater management there and our current initiatives and our permits that are required for developers. Two other items, affordable housing, you'll notice that is throughout the components and items that are needed in the comprehensive plan. Also, it is to include manufactured housing as well, pursuant to one section of the state code. And that is certainly one area where we really need to expand and look towards and provide that information as part of our comprehensive plan. And to fulfill that, they're also looking for trying to link transportation facilities, affordable housing, as well as to the elderly and disabled. And those, certainly those two components of addressing those needs and making sure everybody in the community does have adequate transportation facilities.
So does microtransit, has that taken the place of the word Paris Transit, or is it just a subset
I
of?
believe it's a subset.
Okay, because I hadn't seen microtransit
Well,
before, but interesting.
Yeah, I will show you some
Sure.
graphs and
Okay.
pictures that'll help explain that a little
Fine.
bit.
Thank you.
So instead of focusing on what we're lacking, I wanted to talk and discuss with you as the commission about what current projects we're working on that will help inform the plan and help modify the needs and information that we need for the plan to be updated. And there are several transportation initiatives. And in fact, I hope I can get our transportation project manager to come to one of our meetings to give you more detailed information on the various projects. But I did pick a few that I believe will be helpful and show you what we're working on. And these policies and information that come out of it will certainly inform the overall plan that we can amend and get those concepts and policies into our existing plan. So here are some of the items that we're working on. It's microtransit, that actually is going to be effective in December.
Okay.
Route 28 corridor improvements. We are working on an active transportation plan. We do have shared mobility devices. We're working on policies towards e-scooters and e-bikes. We do need to amend the city code for that, but that's also another alternate transportation product, if you will, for everybody within the city to help link those housing and transportation needs throughout the city. That's kind of in its infancy, so focus on that during this process. And then lastly, we do have some safety improvements, highway safety improvements program that are some pedestrian signal improvements along Manassas Drive.
Might that have some FHWA funding, or it'll definitely have VDOT funding possibly, or?
Yes, there's a specific Virginia grant program and we've already applied for it, I believe, or
Yeah.
we're in the process of applying. I think it is due at the end of the month.
Okay.
So, right, that is, and we've submitted those materials, so we do hope to get some funding for that.
Great.
So microtransit, as you were just asking, is really,
On demand.
it's almost
Okay.
like
Yeah.
Uber on a larger scale using a van.
Okay.
It is where people actually call and request a pickup and a drop-off
Okay.
on a personal nature, so it's not like a bus route. It really is a service for people to call in. However, it's limited. Just for some background, I don't know, this is Route 68. It's called Manassas Park Local. What they analyze as part of the OmniLink is that it really doesn't get a lot of ridership, and it really wasn't functioning the way it was intended, and there's just not a lot of, the trips are usually from residential, and so they felt that they could serve this community in a better way, and they opted to do microtransit.
Martha, you have a question?
I do have a question. Is that part of the program that's already in effect now for the Senior Wednesday? I was just reading, is that Parks and Rec that are running a bus to bring seniors over here?
That is a separate program.
So but it's that type of thing where you would call for the,
Right.
for the service?
And so if you can see this area,
And real quick, Mickey, if for everyone in the planning commission, so we have Calvin on the phone and also people watching on YouTube, they were able to hear you, Martha, clearly. And Mickey, if everyone else can make sure when you're speaking, get a little bit closer to your mic.
Okay.
Okay, because they weren't able to hear you. So Lester, I think when you were asking the questions, they weren't able to hear you.
All right.
All right, thank you.
so this green area is where the microtransit area is. This blue line is where that existing route is, the OmniRide route. So you can see it's essentially the same, if not broader coverage. So you could call anywhere in this area and be dropped off anywhere within this area. So it's kind of a substitute for the bus line, but it's certainly more flexible.
And will all the vans have ADA accessibility? Is that where it's going to serve both the disabled as well if they need it, or is it just more for?
Right, I don't know the
Okay.
details of it,
Sure.
but I suspect the answer is yes. I
Okay.
can't imagine they would have such a program without having some ADA accessible
Okay.
vans.
So it can have some paratransit type of an effect as well then. Okay. Commissioner Collier?
Is that a city program, or is that a contracted?
No, it's through OmniRide, it's the regional transit.
With the Metro?
Right,
Okay.
or RPTC.
PRTC.
PRTC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. There's so many transportation. There's PRTC, NVTC, NVTA, Metro, OmniRide, which is part of PRTC, so
But
VRE.
it's not a city program?
No.
No. Yeah, we're part of the program, but it's.
And
not-
it's a funded, I mean, it's a pay-as-you-ride type thing, or is it free?
I believe it's at no cost, but I am not 100% sure. Calvin, would you know the answer to that? I didn't have the opportunity to ask Steve if that was a free service or not.
Yeah, I believe it is pay as you ride.
Oh, it is
Pay-as-you-ride,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Just another item for your information is the Route 28 improvements. I just took the section for the city. As you know, Route 28 is a wink of an eye through the city, but you can see some improvements that they're going to be making, especially pedestrian, better sidewalks on the intersection of Centerville Road and Manassas Drive. And then, although this is here, I think that's just some more improvements to improve and visually the right and right out there and the left turn that you can make from Centerville Road. I do have the other sections of 28 up north, but at the end of my presentation, if you'd like to see those, because it is kind of interesting of what they're proposing up north of the city. But this certainly is one transportation initiative that's happening and will hopefully provide some not only vehicle improvements, but pedestrian improvements as well. Okay, next is we are currently working on an active transportation plan. I did mention that briefly at our meeting last month when we had a gentleman come and discuss trail planning. Well, this hopefully is the answer to those questions. We did have a kickoff meeting in September. What you see in the bullets are basically the process of how this will happen, and it's a multimodal system with trails and bikes and bike lanes. I'm sure they're going to be looking at other types of transportation items, but it's certainly more non-vehicular. This kind of shows some of the current trails that we have. It's not that great of a map, but so we're really hoping to add on to this and incorporate this. This is a very we're very excited about this. We do have some trails. We certainly would like connections, and we're anticipating a good outcome with this. And once it is completed, we will bring this to you as an informational item, and at some point we'll put it in the comp plan so we can have this map and also for future improvements to our trails system. Currently, they're in the information gathering and field assessment stage. We are having a trail walk, if you will. I think it's November 9th. So this is moving forward. I think it's going to be about a 6 to 8 month process. So we should anticipate a report in the spring of 2023.
May I?
Commissioner Collier?
On that diagram you're just showing us, is the trail identified on there? Or do we know yet
All
where?
these red lines are some of the trail
Okay.
system, because you can see that this is, I think that's Hemlock Overlook Park, and here's trails, that's in Fairfax County.
That's behind the golf course, okay.
Yes, right. Yeah, you can see there's a lot of missing linkages, and I know there's certainly not all the trails on there. It's just more of a pictorial display.
Yeah, and I think that shows some of the proposed or things they want to evaluate to kind of create that connection across jurisdictions as well.
Correct. Right.
Thank you.
And one other item that we're working on is this highway safety improvement program. It's really for the Manassas Drive corridor, putting in a lot of pedestrian enhancements, pedestrian safety enhancements. I just wanted to show these pictures because it kind of identifies what those type of improvements are. That high visibility signal backplate, if you don't know, it's that kind of orange frame or yellow frame around the traffic light. And this plan kind of identifies, if not all of the intersections with Manassas Drive along it, and itemizes different improvements for practically each intersection. I certainly don't want to detail all of those, but I did kind of take this from the proposal that this is what we anticipate and hopefully we'll be looking at. This is a grant. The submission is due at the end of the month, so it's not funded yet, but this is kind of what we anticipate to do. So you can see there's going to be numerous of certain items, certainly crosswalks. We'll have some of those flashing yellow arrows along with those rectangular flashing beacons that you see with the person crossing and the light below it that gets your attention. So you have more awareness of pedestrians crossing. Did anybody have any more questions on that? I mean, it's pretty detailed, and if we do get the grant, I think that will be an excellent.
And Steve's going to go over this in a little bit more detail Tuesday night with the governing body. So if you want to tune in to get more information there.
Okay, and one of the other deficits in our plan is housing. I mean, not only from the standpoint of policies, but also just the information is outdated. And I was really pleased to learn that our housing coordinator is applying for a grant. It's called for a housing needs assessment. She's fairly confident that we will get that. It is due at the end of December. And it really is going to inform the plan. I think there's going to be a lot of information that we can use that gives us what our housing and actually some of our facilities are currently within the city. As you can see, we'll get some demographic data, economic characteristics and trends, government policies and incentives of how we do housing or any kind of economic development, current housing inventory and their characteristics, along with how much availability we have for community services for that number of units. As well as some input from stakeholders and residents if that's part of the proposal. And this assessment will quantify the rental versus for sale units, the price points, bedroom type, and who's living in and what type of people the market, the families, seniors, disabled, so you get really a broad spectrum of a snapshot and tapestry of who is in our city. And certainly it will have recommendations about housing goals, as well as housing policy initiatives, and again, how to identify those market segments in our community. One of the interesting aspects of this assessment will be to do what they call a gap analysis. So that will determine or inform whether we have a deficit or surplus of housing units and at what income level, and also for the rental and for sale. So it'll really give us kind of a good snapshot of our community for housing needs, and as well as the units, and then from that they can determine if if there's demand for rental and for sale, and kind of pair that with the income-based housing, and whether or not the residents and the affordability go hand in hand, or if there's really a disparity there. Then they're also going to do some projections for future housing and household growth, and where, as a city, and time goes on, what those housing needs would be. I kind of already touched on this, but so this will identify housing short, medium, and long term. Also just kind of give some policy guidance for the city, and trying to prioritize any kind of funding of projects once this has been identified. So I think just these items will really help with our update. Again, these were kind of some of the major items that we should really be focusing on, and I'm happy to say I think we can come back in the next 5 years and say that we've completed these tasks, and that our plan has been addressed and updated with these current studies that we've been doing. So I am happy to answer any questions. As Chairman Finkel said, we are requesting that you've stated that you've conducted the 5-year review, and do believe that the plan needs to be updated. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Collier, go ahead.
I think my question is like 2 or 3 parts, I guess. Number one, are we required by any state or federal mandate that we have a certain number of new affordable units in our new development? And the second, I guess, another part would be, do we have affordable housing identified in the new city center redevelopment?
Yeah, so
I'm not sure that was real clear, but.
no, it's very clear. There's no mandate right now from the state or federal government. I believe this state of California is the first to kind of experiment with something like that. There are jurisdictions that independently do this across the country, where they have inclusionary zoning rules, where you have to have set percentages of affordable housings within development. We don't have that here. If you look at our jurisdiction compared to everyone else in Northern Virginia, I would argue that we do already contribute a lot more in terms of affordability, and it's the rest of the region that really needs to kind of pick up in terms of housing supply, because that's going to be the biggest, number one issue in the DC metro area, is that the supply is just not keeping up with demand. That's why you're having overcrowding. That's why you're having kind of pressures on prices going up, until, of course, interest rates now are going up. It's been driving rents higher now as well, incredibly high. So we're having housing issues across the region. We don't have a lot of land. It doesn't mean we can't look at remaining land opportunities with what affordable strategies are, or as future redevelopments occur, incorporate some inclusionary zoning for those developments. I think that's what the comprehensive plan is going to look like. In terms of the Park Central, our new downtown, we don't have affordable housing as a component of that, because the deal was structured again to incentivize the development of the city hall at a discounted price, and the commercial buildings as well. So so the residential homes had to pay for those, so we couldn't reduce the value of that. It doesn't mean that on the other side of the track, as we pursue additional developments, that we're not going to start having some affordable goals. I think that will be, but I think for right now, because of priorities that we have, because we have such a high tax rate as a city, the highest still in Virginia, and the goal is to get that down. We need to continue to incentivize development that is going to help us reduce that tax rate. So it's unfortunate, but in terms of affordability, reducing that tax rate is probably going to be the most important thing that we can do to help existing homeowners stay in their homes as the value of their properties continue to increase because the region's just not producing enough supply. That's what we can do as a city, because if we were flush with a lot of land and capacity to grow, I think we probably could do a little bit more with affordability, but we don't have a lot of more kind of land development opportunities. So it's going to be restricted, and I think it's going to be more of a long-term plan for as residential housing stocks begin redevelopment, and you have pooling of homes that in the future, maybe not in our lifetime, get pooled together for redevelopment, that we have some comprehensive plan guidance and maybe even zoning amendment language talking about requirements for affordability in those future redevelopments. But I think just from my, and again, like Mickey said, the housing coordinator is going to do a comprehensive study here over the next year or two, present those findings back to the governing body. We can have her present it to you all as well, about what the gaps are, what we could do as a city. Right now, I'm of the mindset, we're contributing to expanded supply as a share of our population that I don't think the region is. And we're trying to get that tax rate down to allow for greater affordability for our residents who are here right now, because unfortunately the market just keeps pushing home values up and rental rates up, and it's going to price our existing residents out of the market. So the goal that we have is to reduce that tax rate for both real estate and personal property to make it more affordable, at least from the government side, to have them live here. So I know it's a long answer. It's a very complex issue, but that's one of the goals of the housing program coordinator, is to come back to the governing body with a comprehensive analysis and recommendations for what we can do as a city to do our part to help with affordability in the region. But the region's at serious risk here because there's still demand here for jobs in this region, especially with Amazon and the federal government. There's significant demand for housing that's outpacing supply, and that's a market force there that just causes prices to skyrocket.
Thank you. One other, in referring, we don't have all those slides. You didn't, what we're looking at is not in our packet.
Correct.
Well, in our packet, it does refer to, and it's under, I guess it's under the housing part, the manufactured housing. Say I had in the west side of town, I had an older home, and it was not feasible to refurbish that house. If I knocked it down, but I still wanted to have a residence on that property, what about a modular home? Would that be a consideration, or could a person have that, or would they have to rebuild a house? Is that anywhere in our regulations now, or would that have to come before somebody for approval?
Well, so my question is, how do you define a modular home?
A modular home is not a mobile home. Modular is a two-part that's moved in and put together on a foundation.
If it is functioning as a single-family dwelling and it's in the R1, let's just say on the west side, because that's zoned R1 for the most part, those single-family homes, the Cape Cods, that should not be a problem if it is just a single-family home. It would have to meet all the building codes, but from a zoning perspective, that would be okay. It's
Because I could see that,
Mhm.
I could see that happening.
And that's why I asked, because there is distinction between
Yeah, it's a
mobile
difference.
homes,
Total-
and we really do not allow them in the city. That is a policy issue that we probably need to consider in the comp plan. So we can evaluate that when we look at the housing, but.
No, a modular would be on a foundation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
Another question that ties in then, the mobile home park on Old Centerville Road, that's in the county, that's not in our city. Okay. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
There were two things that I thought might be missing from the transportation section that we want to include. One being some sort of, and I know these are pie in the sky, but we might just want to have them in there, pedestrian crossing for Route 28, like an actual bridge. And then we had briefly talked about a second railroad crossing. So we might want to have those included just in case like someday a grant opportunity came up and it would be required that it's already in the comprehensive plan.
Also, I don't know if the Mathis Drive extension made it on or not, but that's something we were looking at as well to connect to OCR. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's in the CIP, I believe.
It's in the CIP, yeah, but I don't,
It's in
I think
there.
there is some reference to it.
in the comp plan,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's just those two I didn't see.
Can I question her question?
Maybe?
Clarify. A second crossing,
Over the railroad
Where-
tracks.
where would that be?
So the most likely candidate right now, and it's not the only candidate, we could look, in other parts of the industrial area, but Connor Drive is probably the best candidate to do that. It would be an expensive project, so it would have to be funded by federal grants, where Connor Drive on the other side of Manassas Drive, so we're going to extend it out to 28 right now, but it dead ends in the industrial area next to Park 170. As part of Phase 4, they're going to bring that a connection to Manassas Drive, but there'll still be an opportunity to extend Connor Drive under the tracks to connect to Manassas Drive on the other side of the tracks, so that when the rail arms are stuck or train derailment, whatever it is, we still, or just because of, to
you
ease
would still
traffic,
have a-
you have now two options to cross the tracks if you want to just head out through Connor Drive to 28 or along Manassas Drive, but it would be a very expensive project. It's a CIP initiative. There's no way the city could pay for it right now under our current economic conditions, but it's something to evaluate as we continue to see issues with the tracks causing delays every time the rail arms were malfunctioning, and it would really disrupt
Backups, yeah.
commuters coming back home from work, and more importantly for fire and rescue, whenever there's a blockage there, just that access to the other side.
So would it
Yeah.
be an active crossing all the time, or
It would.
just in a case of
No,
emergency?
it would be another road, yeah.
Regular.
So you would have the option when you're driving up Manassas, the current concept, and again, this has to be
Oh, it's
planned,
out there, yeah.
design engineered, we're not even in the planning stages, it's just here. When you're driving down Manassas Drive, before you get to Railroad Drive, or when you get to Railroad Drive, you would be able to go straight if you want to, or hang a left and go through Connor Drive. Or if you're coming from 28 and you're coming on Connor Drive, you can either stay on Connor Drive or take Manassas Drive. So you have two options now to get to Manassas Drive on the other side of the tracks, one not cutting directly through the downtown. So it'll be very helpful too when we shut down the downtown for festivals. Now you have that other road as well that just continues to allow for traffic flow even during large Park Central events.
As in the light parade. Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Big
Yep.
time.
And I can understand it would be expensive because they're not going to allow for another at-grade crossing. I'm sure they don't want to have another at-grade crossing, so then it would have to go under or over, and
Absolutely. And
just
but-
going under will be a cost to itself, let alone what it would cost to have.
And either way, you still would
Yes.
require an easement from
Sure.
the railroad, so they'd have to approve this.
Or under, exactly
Correct.
But
right.
would they be a part of the funding? Could they-
Well, you could probably apply for federal rail grants, but the Norfolk Southern, who I believe is the owner of the tracks, they wouldn't fund it. They would just have to approve or disapprove it. My hope is that they would approve it, because then that would be less of a headache when we keep harassing them when their arms fail about coming out to fix it. Well, now we have another road, so it's not as a big of an emergency for them.
Interesting, yeah.
That was everything.
Commissioner Evans, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Very detailed, very impressed. It was a pleasure to go through and really take it line by line. Be even more exciting as the next 5 years and see where we've gotten at that point. But this is very impressive. I was very excited to take a look at that. Thank you.
And included are we went over for several months the revised goals and objectives for the various chapters. So that was also included as we did work on that for quite a while. And as we amend the plan, we'll certainly keep those and incorporate them as appropriate.
That seemed to sink in very well, too. The timing we were doing there, it was over a period of time, and it came right into the 5-year review, so that's very good. Cool. Thank you. No other questions or comments? Oh, great. What I'll do is I will make this statement and just ask for a motion, a second, and a vote on this. But I will make the statement that the Planning Commission declares that the 5-year review of the comprehensive plan has been completed, and it has determined the plan needs to be amended. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Cool. Takes us to informational update from community development staff. Administrator Berry?
There really isn't anything immediately on the horizon, so I don't really have anything to mention. One thing I will say is we are, under code enforcement, are going around and trying to inform our residents about the new trash rules. So if you see a lot of notices taped to doors, that is Denora and Diane doing their best to gently remind people or inform them if they're not aware of no loose trash bags. We do know that is a concern in the city, so we are working on that, and hopefully we will gain compliance. People are concerned, and we are getting some feedback here, but we're going to do our best to make sure our new policy is enforced. And they're good rules to have, and so we just need more of an informational campaign.
And we're trying to be consistent with the rest of the region. As you engage with residents, let them know they can't have 4 receptacles. So. As a total, so that's pretty significant supply there, and we're not actually citing anyone this month. We'll start in November. Right now, we're just letting them know, but if they don't pick up the trash after we let them know, then Public Works does pick it up, and then we bill them for that. So please help us out by helping us get the word out for everyone, because there's still some confusion as I was driving around last week. They were like, oh, the trash company forgot to pick up my bags. Like, they didn't forget to pick it up. You're not picking it up. You're going to be cited if you don't start collecting. So there's still, not everyone has got the word out, and please help us get the word out. Word of mouth is always the best marketing, I found. Even with the vouchers, that's where it really took off. When we were handing out the vouchers over this summer, I kept asking people, where'd you hear about this? Where'd you hear about this? And, oh, from a friend, from a neighbor. That's the best marketing always. So I'm hoping this trash ordinance expands via word of mouth as well.
And it'll also be the not having garbage piling out of the cans as well. And I think I read that's part of it too. And all this is going to take some time.
It's going to take a lot of
It's just
time,
going to take a
yeah.
lot of time to get people out of the
Correct.
the habit of,
Yeah.
because they're still, just today. I
But
was-
we hope it will be effective in reducing the rat population,
I can
the mice
imagine,
population.
yes.
Hopefully that will help reduce snakes wanting to come closer to residential properties. Correct,
Yes.
so.
Very good. Great, that's it. Great, thank you. Well, unless I hear anything else, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have a question
Oh,
first.
Martha?
Will we be having a meeting next month? Does it look like we do or don't?
I was thinking about that myself. I don't think we will.
Because the day before, several of us in this room have a very long day the day before.
Right. So there
Very
really
long.
isn't anything coming up on the agenda. We do have to have a December meeting for election of officers, or not election, but determining chairman and vice chair. So I think we probably will skip November.
If there's nothing that you have planned, then that sounds fine to me. Everyone else go with that?
Thank you, thank you.
Great.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you for bringing that up there, Martha. And unless there's anything else, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The time is 7:45.
Yeah, election day is